Hi guys, welcome to A Beautifully Wrecked Life. My name is Cassandra and today I am so excited to be sharing with you how I organize our All About Reading homeschool curriculum. So if you already use All About Reading, or if you're thinking about using All About Reading, then you know it comes with a lot of moving pieces and it can be a little bit tricky to try to figure out how exactly to organize everything that you're going to need to access fairly quickly. So today I'm going to walk through how we organize All About Reading in our homeschool to make it very simple and as open and go as absolutely possible. So when you get your curriculum, the unboxing, I haven't done a video of the unboxing, but when you get it, it comes with several things. You're going to have your teacher's manual, you're going to have your student book, you're going to have your readers. I only have one out right now. You're going to have your letter tiles, you're going to have your word cards. So it's a lot, and trying to figure out exactly what to do with that can be a little bit tricky. It took me probably a year of using All About Reading before I realized what would work most seamlessly in our homeschool. So I want to share that with you today because hopefully it will give you some ideas about how to adjust this and make it work for you. All right, so let's dive in. The very first thing that I want to share with you is the fact that we use a homeschool cart. This is not All About Reading specific, but it is such a time saver and a game changer for organization in our homeschool. I did a whole entire blog post on what our organization looks like. I will link to that blog post below so that you can see how we organized at least a year and a half ago. It has changed since then, but the cart is still amazing. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the teacher's manual. There's nothing you really have to do to prep the teacher's manual. I use some sort of marker. I've used a Post-it note before. I'm using a paperclip this year just to mark which lesson we're on so that I can just flip it open to the next lesson when we get started with reading for each day. But this just stays on my cart, have it accessible and handy. Now, the big thing that I've had to prep is the learning activity book. So this is your student book. So a couple points about the student book. First of all, it's non-consumable. So your kiddos are going to use the activities in the book one time, and then they're going to move on to the next lesson and use a different activity. So the wonderful thing is you do not have to buy a new activity book for each student that you have. You can just use the same one with each kiddo, which is why I really like this system of organization because it saves the activities, it keeps them together, they don't get lost, they don't get torn up, any of that. So it's perfect, not only for making this curriculum totally open and go, but also for making sure that your activities are preserved well for your next kiddo who uses the curriculum. So this is what I did. You can see that I have, instead of a book, a binder. But I went ahead and cut the cover off of the student activity book, the learning activity book, and stuck it in here. So for level 1, I have the cover in that binder. This is level 2. So that way I can see the level I'm working with when I go to grab it off the shelf in the future. So cover is cut off and stuck down in the front of the binder. Inside the binder, in the front pocket, I just have our tracking sheet so that Mr. 7 can stick his stickers on as we go and we keep track of what lesson we're on. And then there are a couple rule sheets as you go through level 2, so I have those stuck in there as well so I can access them easily. Okay, so now we're at the heart of the organization. This to me is what makes this program 100% open and go. You already have the teacher's manual, which gives you the scripted lessons, the plans, everything you need to know to teach that lesson. So what you don't have when you get this in the mail is any of the activities prepped. They come in a book and they're perforated pages. So what I did was about half of the book last summer and then the rest of it over Christmas break. I just tore out the pages, cut out the activities. So then I stuck each lesson in one of these 3-ring binder page protectors. So it just acts as a pocket for your activities in that lesson. Well, I was worried when I first did this, like what if I don't know what lesson this goes to? Because once you cut it out of the sheet, you no longer have the heading that tells you what lesson number it is. However, it tells you in your teacher's manual what you need for the lesson, and so that helps. The other thing that helps is that you're going to have a fluency sheet or a warm-up sheet for every single lesson. And so it tells you on the fluency sheet or the warm-up sheet what lesson number you're on. So again, if you keep them together, you're not going to ever have to worry about which lesson am I on, which activities do we need to do today. That's it. I took the whole entire activity book and I went ahead and prepped it ahead of time. I stuck everything in these page protectors, and it just makes it so much easier. So now when we get ready to do our lesson, I just open up the binder, grab the next activity, and we go. And so it's really, really handy. So this is kind of my biggest tip for organizing All About Reading. Have your lesson activities prepped ahead of time, unless you want to spend that time and have your kiddo practice cutting. But for me, that just didn't make sense for our timeline in our homeschool. So that's why we went ahead and prepped all of them ahead of time. So that is that. The next piece of this curriculum are going to be your readers. And these are really easy. You don't have to do anything with these either except find a shelf to put them on. Then we come to the word cards. I have some advice for you here. So I bought for our word cards just a recipe box. You can get them literally everywhere and they're super duper cheap. They work. The cards fit. They just slide right in here. You can see that there's plenty of room for the actual cards. What there is not room for is all of the cards. So I have half of the lesson cards and then half of the lesson cards in here. So I had to swap them out when we reached about the halfway point in the curriculum, and that it's not a deal breaker. It's not something that just is so taxing I can't do. So All About Reading sells really wonderful, nice boxes for the cards to go in, and I have no idea why we have not purchased one yet, but we haven't. So my advice to you would probably be to go ahead and grab one of those boxes just because they are meant to fit the cards perfectly. I went ahead and put them in the recipe box, but you can see what happens. Even though they fit, these front tabs have just gotten smushed as I've closed the lid. So that's a bit annoying. And really, the recipe box is an annoyance for me. So my advice to you would be just go ahead and get the box from All About Reading. All right, so the very last piece of this curriculum that you're going to need to figure out how you want to organize it is going to be those letter tiles. So they come in your interactive kit, and the recommendation for the physical letter tiles is that you have a large whiteboard, approximately 2 feet by 3 feet. You set the letter tiles up and you leave it. So for us, when we very first started this curriculum, we lived in a tiny house. We had 5 of us in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 936 square foot home. So while my husband had done some amazing renovations and added a beautiful built-in bookcase in our dining room, we still just did not have the space to leave a whiteboard that big set up. So what I did instead of the big whiteboard was I kept a smaller whiteboard, and we just used that space. I just had the alphabet on there, and we used that small space for my son's lessons. The problem with that was that the whiteboard would get bumped and tiles would fall off. And I had a toddler at the time, which you know means he was into everything. So he would find one of those tiles that had fallen off and he would pick it up, and I would find him later just waltzing around the house with it. I knew that we were going to lose letter tiles, and I really didn't want that frustration of not having everything we needed with the curriculum. So I soldiered through for about a year working with the curriculum on the small whiteboard with the letter tiles. My son loved the physical moving around of the tiles. He really did. But eventually I just said enough is enough, and we went ahead and bought the letter tile app. You can see everything is in this workspace. You can use it just exactly the same as a whiteboard. There are a couple little commands that you have to figure out, but honestly, it has been such a game changer for us. So I would recommend, if you're on the fence about whether or not to do the physical tiles versus the letter tile app, go ahead and buy the app. It's gonna save your sanity. Okay, friends, so that's it. That's how we organize our All About Reading curriculum. This has been a really nice system for us. I hope this walkthrough of our organization either helps you get yours organized or gives you some ideas about what that might look like in your home and your homeschool. If you have any questions about my organization system or just the All About Reading curriculum in general, drop me a comment below. I would love to answer those for you. And if you would, I would be especially grateful if you would subscribe to my channel. I am still super new and would love to have you follow along on our journey. So thanks again for being here, and I will see you next time.